Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Namaskar friends, welcome to SwayamPrabha. My name is Dr. Parikshit Sirohi. I am Senior Assistant Professor in Faculty of Law, University of Delhi. As part of the course on cybercrime, I am now bringing to you the 6th lecture, which is on the topic Cryptography, Privacy and National Security Concerns. Friends, as part of this particular lecture, during the course of the next 1 hour or so, we are going to be discussing the following topics. First of all, an introduction to the topic, then what is encryption, what is cryptography. They are essentially modes of communication. The technologies, we are going to be talking about that, because communication on the internet has led to newer forms of cipher, newer forms of code. Friends, then we are going to be talking about right to privacy in India, right to privacy in other jurisdictions, the emergence of right to privacy as a basic fundamental right, the most important of all rights under the Constitution of India, which I am sure your constitutional law teacher must have spoken to you about. Then friends, comparative provisions in this regard in other jurisdictions. Here we are going to be studying UK, USA and Japan, and also EU, European Union. Then friends, what about cases of unreasonable restraint on basic liberties in the name of censorship? Some of this you have already studied in the previous lecture, wherein we were talking about censorship. And we are going to be talking about procedural safeguards which are available under the Indian law. What kind of restrictions on cryptography are contemplated under the Information Technology Act? There is one particular provision, section 69 of the Information Technology Act, which provides for restrictions on cryptography in India. So this is what we are going to be studying. Friends, during the last 15 years or so, the new technology has developed in the communication industry. The internet, as we know from our lecture on censorship, has greatly enhanced and made it possible to have communication in a much more easy way, much more cheaper way, much more larger scale, much more faster way as compared to anything like this earlier. Friends, one revolution took place with the invention of the printing press. And another revolution has taken place with the advent of the internet. So, and of course, another revolution is e-commerce, about which you have just discussed in the previous session, the lecture number 5. Friends, the communication industry, the internet communication industry has really come of age in the last 15 years or so, and it has led to the emergence of several new and ethical, legal and ethical questions. Have all of these been answered? Not all of these questions have been answered yet, which is okay. There is nothing wrong with it. Law evolves over a period of time. We are likely to get some answers over a period of time. The answers to ethics, the answers to morals may not always come from lawyers alone. They may come from other sections of society also. But law and courts are essentially concerned with legal questions, the questions of law. So, friends, the freedom of speech, the right to propagate one's ideas, the freedom of expression is one of the most basic liberty which is available to all individuals. Whether you look at the Constitution of Australia, whether you look at the Constitution of USA, whether you look at the unwritten Constitution of UK, whether you look at any liberal democracy. In fact, even if you look at the Constitution of states like China and North Korea, they also talk about free speech. it's another matter that they neither have speech nor is it free. So, friends, it finds mention in Article 19(1)(a) of our Constitution, and which is in the part 3, which is part of our fundamental rights, the right to free speech. Similarly, friends, we have Article 19(1)(d), which gives you the right to free movement throughout the territory of India. You have a right to purchase property throughout the territory of India. These are all fundamental rights which are available. But can any right be enjoyed without restrictions? Friends, the answer is no. No right, no liberty, howsoever cherished it may be, can be enjoyed without restrictions. So, you may have to impose certain restrictions. So, communication, free speech, expression, which is very important, even the freedom of media, that is very important, but there may be certain situations wherein you may have to restrict it. For example, if there is live reporting of a terrorist attack, then that may not be in the best interest of society, it may not be in the best interest of national security. You may have to impose restrictions on that. We saw that in 26/11 attacks in Bombay in the year 2008, in Mumbai, when various locations in the city were being attacked. See what happened. The media channels, the 24-hour news channels, they were showing live the locations of the attackers, the terrorists, and their handlers sitting in other countries, they were watching TV, Indian TV channels, which were showing the live locations, and they were able to give instructions based on the images which were coming. See, the terrorists who were attacking, they were not seeing the TV. They could not see the TV, but their handlers were communicating with them via satellite phones, giving them the advantage that what damage they were doing was being seen live. So, this is a very serious threat to national security. And after that, certain guidelines have been framed about what can be done in such situations, what can be done on the internet when live events are to be broadcasted, what can be done on TV when live events are to be broadcasted. We've seen something similar in Sri Lanka when there was a bomb attack. In Pakistan, when there was a bomb attack on the Sri Lankan cricket team. So, again broadcasted live then and there, and the handlers of the terrorists were watching. Friends, the corollary to free speech is that there must be as little restrictions as possible. So, yes, we want to try to have as little restrictions, but at the same time, no liberty, howsoever cherished it may be, can be enjoyed without any restrictions whatsoever. Friends, the practice of encryption and the study of this practice, cryptography. So, the practice itself is called encryption, and the study of this practice is called cryptography. Cryptography is a science like any other science, maybe geography, maybe biology. So, cryptography and the encryption, the practice of encryption, the study of cryptography provides the individuals, provides the persons with means of communication which no third party can understand. No third party can understand this unless he is able to break the code, or unless he is specifically allowed to understand by the communicator himself, by the person who has originated the communication himself. Friends, such technology is liable to be misused. Yes, of course, but friends, most technology can be misused. Does that mean we stop using technology? We just become more careful. We do a cost benefit analysis. How much is the risk and how much is the gain? So, about fire, we say that it is an excellent servant but a poor master. So, do we stop using fire for heating our homes, for cooking our food, for heating our water? This water which we drink, it may have been boiled, you may have used heat. No, we don't stop. So, similarly, we don't stop using technology, rather we become more savvy to understand that technology can be misused by individuals to carry out clandestine operations. And yes, we have to be wary of such individuals who are carrying out clandestine operations, encrypting the messages which are detrimental to our national security. So, we have to always be having our national security agencies to be intercepting such messages and to decrypt such messages which are threatening our national security, friends. Some restrictions which are needed in the interest of safety of our residents, safety of our citizens, safety of the nation, national security, and also to ensure the privacy of individuals. Certain restrictions on free speech may be needed, friends. Friends, what is encryption first of all? What is cryptography? They are essentially the certain techniques, means of communication, and they have acquired more prominence ever since the communication is taking place on the internet. Friends, the encryption is the use of secret codes and ciphers to communicate information electronically from one person to another. They are codes, they are ciphers which are communicating the information from one person to another, and the persons communicating, they are the only persons who know how to use these codes, how to decode these codes. Some other person, if he is intercepting, he must be sufficiently skilled to be able to crack the code, break the cipher. So, usually they will be, in the olden days we used to have Morse code. As children, you may have played very simple coding techniques. Tap the door 3 times, that is a code that I have come. Blink the flashlight 3 times to indicate danger, that is all code. So, imagine a situation wherein you are sending a letter to your friend or your relative or your significant other, and somebody else is intercepting that letter and reading your personal messages. You would not want that. So, so just think of the encryption technology as a code lock on the envelope. That envelope can only be opened by the recipient. Friends, WhatsApp claims that its messages, its encryption technology is perfect and cannot be decrypted by anybody. Apple claims that its phones cannot be hacked, cannot be decoded by anybody. In fact, there have been cases wherein the Apple phones have been used by terrorists for communication, and once the terrorist is killed, even the law enforcement agencies, the topmost law enforcement agencies of the world, US, FBI and others, they have not been able to crack the Apple code, and Apple has even managed to get favorable orders from courts saying that they will not provide assistance in such cases. Whether they should be allowed to do so is another story altogether, but this is the fact of the matter. So strong is the encryption technology that they have. Friends, then we have cryptography. Cryptography, on the other hand, is not the practice, it is the study. So, this is the practice, whereas this is the cryptography is the study of secret codes, study of ciphers. They are studying the secret codes, they are studying the ciphers and innovations that are occurring in the field of cryptography, the field of ciphers, the field of codes. They are studying in that regard, friends. Friends, encryption is the actual process, the practice. Cryptography is the study. So, and therefore, you can say that cryptography is wider in scope than mere encryption. With the emergence of internet as the fastest, most effective means of communication, it is essential to ensure that messages are transmitted, which are transmitted are not intercepted. They are not misused by others, because secrecy is of utmost importance. Secrecy is important to the individual to safeguard his or her privacy. Secrecy is important for companies because the project that they may be working on, if it is revealed, then the competitive advantage will be lost. The inventor who is developing something new, if it is disclosed, then he may not get a patent for his work. Similarly, if the country is developing some new technology, if it is revealed, then the country itself will suffer, the national security may suffer, the country's development may suffer. Imagine India managed to keep the fact that we were developing the nuclear self-deterrence a secret from the world, wherein we have in the sky we have eyes, spy satellites all the time, but yet until we broadcast the news to the world that we have developed nuclear deterrence, nobody else was able to get to know. So, this is hats off to our nuclear scientists, friends, and that is also a great example as to why we need to have encryption technologies, why we need to study cryptography to provide secrecy for individuals, companies as well as countries. So, Friends, what is the primary purpose of cryptography? The primary purpose is that the messages remain secure till they reach the intended recipient, and they should not be interfered by the third parties. The third party should not be interfering with any of the messages which has been sent by the original sender. Friends, now we come to this very interesting yet very important issue of right to privacy. In most liberal democracies, in most liberal countries, it is generally accepted that private as well as personal spheres of a person's life are very different and they need to be respected. You should not unnecessarily interfere, no interference in private sphere. Public sphere, fine, but private sphere, no interference should be there. Sometimes, friends, this line between public and private may get blurred. You are faced with very ethical, moral, legal questions. If the individual is indulging in drug trade, if the individual is indulging in narcotics, if the individual is indulging in pornographic activities, anti-national activities, terrorism, now what do you do? Do you still protect that person's privacy? Just to give you one small little example, in conventional murder, the murderer may kill one person or two persons, but somebody who is in the narcotics business is going to kill an entire generation. Anybody who is doing drugs, anybody who is doing narcotics is never going to grow old. They will all die young. So you are killing an entire generation of young people. You may be indulging in gun running, you may be indulging in anti-national activities, terrorism, you may be indulging in pornography, child pornography. So in such case also, should your privacy be protected? The answer is no, friends. So there is a common misconception that right to privacy, I will be referring it in my slides as RTP, is just a weapon to ensure confidentiality. No, it is a lot more than that. Confidentiality only arises after the information about one particular transaction has reached the third party. But privacy starts at the very inception. In the very beginning, the privacy starts. So right to privacy extends over the entire process: collection, retention, use, disclosure of the information which is pertaining to an individual. It stems out of the basic desire of the individual to secure his or her own identity. It cannot be denied. Now, privacy has different connotations in different civilizations. In India, we find it perfectly okay to ask a person, whom have you voted for? Are you married? Do you have a job? What kind of a job do you have? If you are married, do you have children? Why don't you have children? How old are they? Where do your children study? But in USA, if you go, unless you are on very friendly terms, such questions about marriage, sexual orientation, religion, whom have you voted for, whether you have children or not, how old are your children, where do they study, these are not asked at all. These are in the private domain. So I am just trying to point out certain, in India all these questions are regarded as icebreakers. You meet a complete stranger in a train and you will ask these questions. Please tell me, don't you do that? You and I, all of us do that. So this is our, so we don't regard it as anything which is not supposed to be done. So the privacy also varies according to cultures, friends. Privacy thus involves the right to control one's personal information, ability to determine how much information we want to give out, and therefore it is called informational self-determinational. So this is a definition which was first used by courts in Germany, but now it is often used all over the world, the privacy being referred to as informational self-determination, friends. Nice way to put it. Friends, encryption of details of personal transactions, whether they are taking place on banking transactions, whether it is your Aadhaar database, whether it is the Social Security database in US, this assures the person about greater privacy, certainly, but it also poses another challenge. So every coin has two sides. So encryption means that there is definitely greater assurance of privacy. But at the same time, now the government is concerned about national security, because you give your children privacy, but at the same time you may want to monitor what they are doing, because you don't want them to fall into bad habits. Exactly same is the government's dilemma. So they want to safeguard the privacy of the individual, but at the same time some people will misuse the privacy and indulge in such kind of activities. So then how do we ensure national security? So that is a concern which governments all over the world have. So you have to balance privacy with free speech, you have to balance privacy with national security, you have to balance privacy with encryption, you have to balance encryption with national security, friends. So this kind of a tightrope walk is exactly what governments, lawmakers, adjudicators, judges have to do on a day-to-day basis. Something like what you have to do in a circus, walking on a very thin rope. Friends, the privacy in India, what kind of a journey it has had to becoming a fundamental right. Friends, what has happened in India as across the world over the years, there have been a lot of rights which have become the implied fundamental rights. They may not find mention in part 3 of the constitution, which is dealing with the fundamental rights, but over the years they have become the implied fundamental rights, and this is the process which has happened all over the world, not just in India. And why has it happened? Because, friends, the resources of the state have increased over a period of time. In 1947, we had no resources. We had very little agricultural production, we had no industry, we had no services. So the ability of the state to provide various services, to provide various facilities to the citizens was very limited. So we gave right to free speech, but there was no point in saying that citizens will have right to privacy and right to food and right to health, etc. It doesn't make sense, because even if you give them a right, if there are no resources, the right is going to remain a paper right. For example, the Constitution of South Africa is the first one to specifically say in the Constitution explicitly as a fundamental right, the right to food. Yet that is a country where maximum people die of hunger. So that is why the lawmakers in India chose not to make too many rights fundamental rights. Instead, they said only these things which we can do at this point of time will we make it as fundamental rights. The rest of them we are going to put under part number 4, which is called Directive Principles of State Policy, friends. So many of these aspects, since India underwent a lot of economic development, over the last 20 years or so, you will find many of these rights have actually become implied fundamental rights, which means thanks to interpretation by the court, thanks to laws made by the government, they have made the transition from part 4 to part 3, friends. So in this regard, I would like to talk about right to health by virtue of the judgment of Paramanand Katara, Pandit Paramanand Katara. This is a 1987 judgment, I think. It has become an implied fundamental right. Similarly, the right to food by virtue of the PUCL judgment has become an implied fundamental right. This is the world's longest surviving mandamus, lasted for 17 years from 1997 to 2014, friends. Right to livelihood, thanks to Olga Tellis and all the MC Mehta cases, has become a fundamental right. Pollution free environment, again thanks to MC Mehta, all the MC Mehta cases, whether it is Ganga pollution or Kanpur tanneries case or Bichdi village case, it has become a fundamental right. Similarly, the right to enjoy cracker free Diwali is again become a fundamental right. Similarly, right to information has become an implied fundamental right. In this category, I would like to put right to privacy also. By virtue of the judgment of Justice K.S. Puttaswamy retired versus Union of India, wherein a 91-year-old petitioner who retired as a judge of the High Court of Karnataka, a 9-judge bench of the Supreme Court said that all Indians enjoy the right to privacy. It is a fundamental right. It comes from Article 21. It comes from Article 19(1)A. It comes from Article 19(1)D. And it cannot be taken away even during an emergency. So this is a fundamental right which they have said, bench of 9 judges, friends. They have talked about informational privacy, they have talked about data privacy, they have talked about the various dimensions of privacy, how much of privacy can be expected in the intimate sphere, in the intermediate sphere, and in the public sphere. So various limits of privacy have been provided. They have borrowed from foreign jurisprudence. Justice Chandrachud, who has written his judgment, has borrowed from American jurisprudence quite a lot while writing the judgment. And but this struggle about right to privacy being a legal right, fundamental right in India is not a new one, friends. If you remember the 1978 case of Maneka Gandhi versus Union of India, the passport case, wherein section 10 subsection 3 subsection C of the Passport Act was challenged on the grounds that it violated Article 21. The passport officer did not issue a passport to the petitioner on the grounds that she was not fit to travel abroad. She says it is my fundamental right, and at that time also in this judgment the right to privacy has been talked about. Friends, the journey actually starts from Khadak Singh in 1963. Before that, there was a case in Delhi, wherein the ADM had confiscated certain papers of one person, and the person goes to court saying you can't do this because it is my privacy. So at that time it was not upheld. Khadak Singh versus State of Uttar Pradesh, the domiciliary visits by the policemen were allowed, and saying that no, privacy is not a fundamental right. For the first time in the case of Gobind versus State of Madhya Pradesh 1975, the Supreme Court has recognized privacy as some sort of a fundamental right. But they have gone back in the case of R. Rajgopal versus State of Tamil Nadu. This is the famous Auto Shankar case, friends, just to remind you. In 1994, this person, Auto Shankar, who was a serial killer, was in jail, and one of the journalists, Mr. Rajgopal, who was running, he still runs this Tamil magazine called Nakkiran, and he contacted this person and obtained several interviews of him, wherein this Auto Shankar disclosed how he was able to carry out several murders, more than a dozen murders in the city of Chennai, spread over a period of 2 years, and he had been convicted in 6 cases, and in several others he was undergoing trial at that point of time. He explained, this convict explained how he was able to do so. He enjoyed links with several VIPs, ministers, top bureaucrats, and that is how the police was not able to catch him. And his version of what was happening was sought to be published by Mr. Rajgopal in the form of a biography of Auto Shankar, immediately the Tamil Nadu government obtained a favourable order from the Madras High Court seeking the restraint of publication, saying that the journalist Mr. Rajgopal had not followed proper procedure, and this violated the prison rules by getting this manuscript. He was not allowed, he was not supposed to have this manuscript in the first place, and the interviews should not be published in the first place in the form of a book. Against this order of the Honorable Madras High Court, the journalist Mr. Rajgopal went to the Supreme Court. While the Supreme Court accepted many of his contentions, they stopped short of declaring the right to privacy to be an express fundamental right at that point of time, friends, and this book never saw the light of day. So whether it should have come out, whether it should not have come out, I leave it for you to decide, but at that point of time, right to privacy was not regarded by the court to be an express fundamental right, friends. So, friends, how has this evolved? India is a signatory to the International Convention on Civil and Political Rights. Article 17 on this of this convention, we are a signatory, so this applies to us, provides for right to privacy for all citizens, for all individuals who are living in the country. Similarly, the OECD, the Organization of Economically Developed Countries, they have principles for collection of data. The Supreme Court extended those to India. There are the 6 principles which have been extended. Friends, the judgment of Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul, so this was a 9-judge bench, the Puttaswamy case. Many of the judges, 6 of them if my memory serves me right, have written their own judgments, and the judgment of Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul has taken the concept of privacy even further. So he has created what is today called the celebrity rights, so which is extending the concept of privacy even further. In his judgment, Justice Sanjay Kishan Kaul says the manner in which a person speaks a particular word, a performer performs a particular dance form, some known person, his life story, that cannot be brought out in the form of a book or a movie, or cannot be used without that person's consent. So recently this concept has been used by the Honorable Delhi High Court in the case involving Anil Kapoor and the way he says jackass. So 100 plus websites and other others who were using this word jackass pronounced by celebrity film star Anil Kapoor was they were stopped. They were asked by the judge, Honorable Justice Pratibha Singh, to stop doing so immediately, restrained from doing so immediately. Now friends, you will ask that how does this become part of privacy? The manner of speaking a particular word. So Amitabh Bachchan's voice, the way he says, Namaskar, मैं अमिताभ बच्चन बोल रहा हूँ. So the way he says this is part of his personality. Similarly, this word jackass may be having an ordinary meaning in the Hindi language or the Marathi language. But the way Anil Kapoor says is jackass, he opens his hands and he says jackass. So the way he says it is a particular way. I am not trying to imitate, I am just trying my best to perform, to say the word the same way the performer does. So the judgment of Honorable Sanjay Kishan Kaul has extended this concept even further, friends. So that is the journey of right to privacy as an implied fundamental right under the Constitution of India, and since it is a fundamental right, it enjoys precedence over all other legal rights, friends. So friends, we have seen the status of privacy in India. Now let us look at certain comparative positions in other jurisdictions. In the United States, there is a lot of, there was in the 90s and 2000s, lot of pressure on the Congress to deal with privacy issues, especially privacy issues emanating on the internet, and that is why they asked the Federal Trade Commission to investigate the matter, and they submitted, FTC submitted a report to Congress. It led to the passage of the Children's Online Privacy Protection Act 2000, where children under 13, below 13, their privacy can never be intruded without the parental consent. So if there is any child below 13, his or her privacy can never be intruded. There are very, very strict provisions, friends, very, very strict provisions on showing pornography to minors, child pornography, inducing people to see child pornography, or making children see pornography, or making adults see child pornography. They are all very, very strictly punished. And mind you, US is a country where pornography is to a large extent permitted under free speech. So even in such a jurisdiction, they are very strict with regards to child pornography, with regards to child privacy. Later on, this was sought to be extended to all adults by making a law called Online Protection of Privacy Act. Friends, the businesses, the private sector entities like Better Business Bureau, this is something like NASSCOM or FICCI in India, industry bodies, ASSOCHAM, NASSCOM, FICCI, We have such bodies in India. Similarly, in the US, they have something called a Better Business Bureau. They sought to meet the lacuna in the law by providing a list of recommended e-commerce websites, the e-commerce websites which are following the privacy standards very religiously, very diligently. And this was done to increase the confidence of the consumers. Friends, UK enacted its own Data Protection Act, wherein responsibility was cast on the persons who were collecting data, for what purposes any data was collected, how that data is to be stored electronically, how that data is to be stored physically, who is going to have access to that data, for what purposes can that data be used, for what purposes can the data be manipulated. When I say manipulation of data is for what purposes can you use the data. So, for example, I have collected the data regarding all the children who are going to school. So, manipulation of the data is finding out of the children going to school, how many of them are below 10 years of age. So, even for performing such an manipulation on the data which is collected, there are do's and don'ts under this particular act. So, this was one of the most excellent legislations which were provided and led to similar legislations, similar law in other EU countries. They have borrowed extensively from the EU law. So, whenever there is a good practice, friends, people tend to copy it. People tend to apply the same to their own jurisdictions. So, friends, in Japan also the data is collected, and in 1997, so more or less the same time. So, mid 90s was the time when people really woke up to this particular aspect in the developed world, and we have been having this bill which has become the law in 2023. I will just be talking about that. In 2013, we introduced a bill. So, we were around 15-20 years behind the rest of the world. By the time this bill has gotten passed, we are around 25 years behind the rest of the world. When it comes to having a law on protection of consumer data. So, the Ministry of Internal Trade and Industry has prepared and released various guidelines in 1997 pertaining to protection of computer processed personal information in the private sector. Any information which is computer prepared, computer processed, how can it be used, how can it be processed in the private sector? Friends, whenever information is created and stored on paper, the risk is not that large that it will reach wrong hands. At best, the paper will go into wrong hands. It may be photocopied and reach 10 other wrong hands. But when it is electronic form, friends, it can reach millions of wrong hands instantaneously. So, that is why electronic data, the digital data, the computer processed data, we have to be very, very careful in this regard. We have to have guidelines, we have to have laws, we have to ensure that protection is there for the consumers in this regard, because data is the currency of the modern world. Friends, I will again like to talk about the statement which was made by the Honorable Prime Minister when he was addressing the Directors General and Inspectors General of Police, the topmost police officers of the country, in their national conference in Jaipur in January 2023. So, the Honorable Prime Minister made one statement which really gladdened my heart as a teacher of intellectual property law, as a teacher of constitutional law, as a teacher of cyber law, that he said that आज के युग में पुलिस को जो है डंडे से नहीं बल्कि डेटा से पुलिसिंग करनी चाहिए. What a beautiful thought, friends. Data is more effective even for policing as compared to danda. So, things by force, the data that you are getting through cameras, through surveillance, legal surveillance, the data that you are getting can be used more effectively for policing. See how traffic has become more disciplined wherever you have traffic cameras at zebra crossings, speed detection cameras, etc., which are there. They have become so much better, friends. Similarly, friends, in Japan, there was an information processing data center which was set up, JIPDC it is called, and they have developed a privacy seal granting program. So, websites, businesses who are following good practices, they grant them a privacy seal, and obviously when the person is displaying such a seal, it is like a quality certificate. This seal, it is like a quality certificate. So, something like, let's say, ISO 9001, which you may have heard of, some kind of a quality certificate, this seal, and obviously when the business who has got this seal of certification from the JIPDC, it is displaying it, such business, such website will obviously get consumer confidence, and more number of customers will be visiting this particular website, because they are more guaranteed that their data, their information is never going to be misused, friends. Friends, there are restrictions which are imposed in cryptography. While doing so, we are always following the due process, the due procedure, because Article 21 itself says procedure established by law. But as you are already aware, the procedure established by law also includes due process of law in India. That is what has been said in the Maneka Gandhi judgment. That is the major change that we have seen from A.K. Gopalan to Maneka Gandhi. So, friends, the safeguards are there in India, the restrictions are there. It is not to curb free speech, but restrictions are provided in section 69, I beg your pardon, of the Information Technology Act. Central and state government, or any of the officer which is specifically authorized by central or state government, it may be district magistrate, it may be SDM, it may be any officer which is authorized by notification of the central or state government. Such person has the authority to impose such restrictions. The restrictions can be imposed. Now, what are the grounds on which the restrictions can be imposed? Friends, think of the grounds which are available under Article 19.2 to Article 19.6. And the same grounds are available for restrictions which are imposed in the section 69 of the Information Technology Act when it comes to encryption and cryptography. The sovereignty of India, the integrity of India, the defense of India, it should actually be DEFENCE. I apologize for the typo. The security of India, the friendly relations with the foreign states, the public order, preventing the incitement to commission of any cognizable offence. So, these are the grounds on which this restriction can be imposed. Any government agency, any officer who has the authority can be directed to intercept, monitor, decrypt, or cause to be decrypted, or cause to be monitored, or cause to be intercepted any of this information which is generated, transmitted, received or stored in any computer or computer system which is operated by any person or entity. So, any officer who is, they will typically be very senior officers who have this authority, usually no non-gazetted officer. So, if it is any police officer, it will typically be somebody of the rank of inspector or deputy superintendent of police at least, not below that. So, the officer or the government agency, they will have the authority. The certain cyber cell of the state police maybe, they will have the authority to intercept, to monitor, to decode, to decrypt the information, to monitor, to keep in surveillance legally. This is all being done legally, friends, as per law, as per section 69. So, as per gazette notification. Any of the information which may be putting India at risk or Indian nationals at risk. So, any computer system where such information is being generated, transmitted or received or stored, these computers may be intercepted, they may be monitored, this information may be decrypted, this information may be intercepted. So, these actions can be taken by virtue of section 69, friends. So, any subscriber, that is any individual, any intermediary, that is any ISP for example, or any person who is in charge of the computer, the head of the department of that office where that computer is kept, the supervisor of the employee who is using the computer. Maybe the employee has gone on leave, maybe the employee has run away. So, that does not mean that his computer cannot be accessed. They have a responsibility to extend all facilities, all technical assistance must be given to provide access. They cannot stall. You have to cooperate with law enforcement, that is what section 69 says. You cooperate, extend all facilities, extend all technical assistance to provide access, to get access to such computer network, such computer system, such computer resource which is either generating or transmitting or receiving or storing information which the government or the concerned authority, central or state, feels that it is they need to intercept it, monitor it, keep it under surveillance, decrypt it, for protecting India and its citizens, friends, India and its nationals, friends, because there is nothing more important in India than national security. And it is the same, friends, all over the world. In the US, for example, there is nothing more important than homeland security, friends. So the subscriber or the intermediary who does not cooperate, who does not assist the government agency, see how much of punishment is there. Up to 7 years imprisonment can be given in such a case if you are not found to be cooperating with the law enforcement agencies. Let's say somebody has, you have not been careful enough to put a strong Wi-Fi password, and your Wi-Fi is being used by a potential terrorist, or your Wi-Fi is being used by somebody to carry out prostitution, or your Wi-Fi is being used by somebody to send out messages regarding terrorism, or your Wi-Fi is being used to carry out trade in narcotics or banned substances, or guns are being bought and sold using your Wi-Fi. So you must extend in such cases all facilities, instances, information you must give to law enforcement about the computer which you have been using, the router which you have been using, etc. In case any person, subscriber or intermediary, ISP or individual is failing to do so, is not cooperating with the government agency, they can be punished with imprisonment which may last up to 7 years, friends, and they may also be liable to fine, along with fine. So friends, no procedural safeguard unfortunately is completely foolproof. We can only make the task of the persons who are criminals trying to use the encryption technology for their own benefit, we can only try to make their task more difficult. No procedural safeguard is completely foolproof. We in India always follow the procedure established by law to the last T. Friends, the whole world has seen what Amir Kasab has done to, Amir Ajmal Kasab has done to the citizens, the policemen, the innocent bystanders in the hotel, in the railway station in Mumbai in 26/11. He and his co-terrorists, what they have done. It has been captured live on CCTV. TV channels have shown it live, friends. Yet what have we done in this country? Have we allowed Kasab and his friends to be submitted to any kind of media trial or any kind of kangaroo courts? No, friends. We have given him legal representation. We have given him a lawyer to defend his interests. We have allowed him full right to defend himself in the court of the first instance, in the court of the second instance, in the court of the third instance. He has been allowed full legal remedies. So everything has been allowed, even to a terrorist like him who has committed the crime as dastardly, and crime for which there is so much of proof on CCTV, friends. Everybody has seen him with his backpack firing away with his AK-47 on innocent civilians and law enforcement officers. Similarly, friends, the procedures which we have in our law have more than enough safeguards, and the procedure in the Information Technology Act intends to control without damaging the freedom of the individual. We respect the freedom of the individual. We are in the law trying to balance the individual's freedom vis-a-vis the rights of law enforcement to control such kind of nefarious activities. Restrictions on cryptography may be abused, yes. Restrictions on cryptography may be abused for illegitimate purposes, but at the same time we have to also see that if we are giving too much of freedom to people who are indulging in cryptography, this is also liable to be misused, and misused for anti-national activities, for subversive activities, for activities which are endangering the national security. And in today's world, we have to take care of our national security ourselves. It is not, we cannot expect anybody else to come and stand with us when we are faced with national security issues. In the modern day world, the cyber terrorism is more important than conventional terrorism, because every action, every conventional terrorism will have a cyber angle. The conventional crime is now virtually impossible to commit without a cyber angle, friends. So the cyber terrorists are always going to be using the encryption technologies, the crypto technologies, and we have to be one step ahead of them. So while the freedom must be given, but if we are giving too much of freedom for encryption, then that is also liable to be misused and used for activities which may damage the privacy of the individual, which may be misused for anti-national activities or other kind of subversive activities, friends. So to balance, the solution lies in neither in unwarranted control by state nor in absolute freedom. Some kind of a middle path needs to be drawn, and I think our law so far is doing rather well in this regard. Maybe there may be some requirement at some point to tighten the controls when it comes to national security. Otherwise, I think the law is striking a good balance so far between freedom for the citizens and the control of the dangerous, nefarious, unwanted activities, friends. The solution may lie in the encryption itself. So, government law enforcement officers, if they are taught encryption and decryption, that can be a good solution to the problem itself. The problem needs to be looked at twofold, friends. At one level, we have encryption and cryptography as mode of free speech on the internet, and the other side is the more important issue of cryptography as an essential part of right to privacy. So, whether we want to provide cryptography as a right to privacy for the citizens, that is the larger issue, and at another level we have the issue of encryption and cryptography as a mode of free speech. Friends, there are no absolutes in the real world. The situation keeps on changing. Recently, we have had a situation wherein an honorable member of parliament has shared her password for which allows the members of parliament to ask questions in parliament with somebody else, a private person. So can this, and this password has been used outside India. Now when this password is being used for such an important purpose like asking questions in parliament, which only honorable members of parliament can do so, and if this password is used outside of India and it is used on servers outside India, don't you think it will pose some kind of a challenge to national security? So friends, in such a situation, maybe the law with regards to the encryption technology must change. There must be some kind of a law which says that, you know, if they are already using for asking parliamentary questions encryption technology, it is very good. Otherwise, maybe there is a need now, because of incidents like this, to start having the encryption technology for such important purposes also. That is my thought when I first read about this incident. That was my first thought, friends. I immediately thought of section 69 of the Information Technology Act. Friends, when we look at this problem from the twofold level of encryption and crypto as a mode of free speech, and the larger issue, the cryptography as an integral part of the right to privacy, the aspect of encryption and cryptography as part of free speech, you may be able to subject to reasonable restrictions under Article 19.2 to 19.6. But in the case of the important larger issue of cryptography being an integral part of right to privacy, to my mind, whenever you are imposing such restrictions, you will have to satisfy the triangle test of 14, 19 and 21 of the Constitution. It should not be arbitrary. It should not be something which is against the procedure established by law, and it must satisfy the test of Article 19 as well. So, friends, the no procedural standard may be perfect, but we have to deal with various imperfections, and under the present regime, our law is also evolving. So, these are rather exciting times, and I am sure our legislature and our courts will rise to the occasion as and when a challenge is posed before them in issues involving cryptography or the larger issue of whether cryptography is coming in conflict with the right to privacy. So this was a rather interesting session, friends, wherein we have discussed about right to privacy vis-a-vis cryptography, how cryptography comes in the way of right to privacy, how cryptography and encryption help in privacy, and how cryptography and encryption can actually be dangerous from the point of view of national security. So I hope you have enjoyed this particular session, and we will be back with another session on the SwayamPrabha channel with regards to cybercrime. Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you again.